This video covers the temporal aspect in ASL and expands on the information from Chapter 10, Section 1 in your Signing Naturally textbook. In English, the temporal aspect is called a gerund. Gerunds are words that have been modified with an ing ending to make them indicate that something is continuous or lasting. Other words that express this concept in English are always and tends to. These words apply the same way in ASL. The sentence, "He is always late," indicates that this is a permanent feature of his behavior. The same idea is expressed by the sentence, "She tends to cry at sad movies." The temporal aspect means that these attributes are regular and expected behaviors. In ASL, there are three main ways to convey the idea of characteristics. First, you can use the sign tends to, followed by an explanation of the habitual behavior. Second, you can use the possessive sign at the end of the expression. In that context, it translates into his, her, or their way of doing things. The third way is to modify the descriptive sign by adding a circular or repetitive motion to it. The addition of these temporal motions in sign production imply that the feature is permanent or ongoing. Bigger, slower, and more exaggerated sign production increases the intensity or duration of the concept. Non-manual markers convey the signer's feelings about the duration or type of continuity. Here are some examples of the repetitive temporal modification. In this first example, notice how the sign for skip changes as it becomes skipping, and see how my non-manual markers add to the concept and imply my own feelings about it. He skipped class. He's always absent. The sign create, invent, or innovate can be used for a single incident of creation or repeated to emphasize someone's character. This sign has a breadth of different production options, including using one or both hands and alternating from right to left. She invented new software. She's so creative. Wow. They lied. They're always lying. They're a liar. Some signs lend themselves to a circular motion for the expression of a temporal modification. The sign to vomit, puke, or throw up is easily made continuous by the addition of a circular motion. Compare "my baby threw up" to "all night long my baby was throwing up." And remember, bigger, slower circles mean more intensity and a longer duration. My baby threw up all night long. My baby was throwing up, vomiting, just all night long, throwing up terribly. The sign to wait is easily changed into the idea of waiting with the addition of a circular motion. In ASL, you expand the duration or intensity by modifying one sign. while in English, we do this by adding words like so, really, or long, long time. Wait a minute. Would you mind waiting for an hour or two? I have been waiting and waiting and waiting for so long. The ASL sign for mocking or jeering is modified by a circular motion. It is also directional to show who is mocking and who is being mocked. And importantly, non-manual markers indicate how serious and negative the mocking is. I mocked him. My brother is mocking me. These kids, they were mocking this boy, jeering him, really cruel teasing. Another way to express human characteristics in ASL is to use the possessive sign, their, in conjunction with the temporal sign. The possessive flat hand refers to their way of being or their way of doing things. You can also use the sign tends to express the idea that someone's behavior is more of a permanent feature. I will demonstrate the ASL translation of the English sentence, Tom finishes all his work on time. The sign complete is repeated at least 3 times to indicate that he's a solid finisher. The on-time sign is also repeated to show that he is consistently punctual with his project completion. The use of the possessive flat hand at the end reinforces that this is Tom's true nature. Tom finishes all his work on time. The use of the possessive flat hand is dependent upon context and sign choice. In the case of this sentence, Mark is always running late, the modification is applied to the sign late, and the repeating pronoun at the end is not possessive. This means that he runs late, but not that it is a deeply ingrained or inherent part of his being. Mark is always running late. In the next example, Jan is sweet but very forgetful. A contrast is being drawn between a positive feature, sweetness, and a negative feature, forgetfulness. And the modification is applied to the sign forget and is preceded by the tends to sign. This reinforces that Jan's forgetfulness is common. Notice that instead of a repeating pronoun at the end of the signed expression, an eye gaze shift and nod accomplishes the same thing. Jan is sweet, but very forgetful. In some cases, the temporal aspect will be used on both attributes. In this sentence, Joe is unfocused and always broke. One sign is produced with the circular motion, unfocused, and one has the repetitive structure, broke. Joe is unfocused and always broke. The repetition of a sign in ASL expands its meaning, even when it's not regarding human behavior. For example, repeating the sign different means many different things. Repeating the sign meet means meeting lots of people. Repeating the sign happen means many things happened or something happens often. The sign avoiding responsibility is almost always repeated and means that a person is flaky or totally unreliable. The sign for mingling with people is always signed with a temporal circular motion because in all cases it indicates a duration of socializing with others. Many different things. Meeting lots of people. Something keeps happening. Never taking responsibility. Mingling and socializing with others. Some English words do not have a direct translation into one sign, and the concept must be built through a combination of signs. Two examples of this sort of composite expansion in ASL are applied to the English words extrovert and introvert, which are expressed by combining a series of temporal signs. Talking, mingling, and meeting many people is how we sign extrovert, while quiet, shy, and staying home is how we express introvert. In ASL 4, we will make use of two more non-manual markers. The TH lips, which indicate that something is broken, damaged, lazy, careless, or doesn't work very well. And the lips, or tight lips, which indicate that someone or something is strict, tight, hard, dense, serious, or difficult. Practice using temporal signs and work with your group to figure out which signs are circular and which must be repetitive. This concludes the lecture for Unit 10, Section 1.